My son called me a nobody in front of his wife, so I smiled, took the house keys, and here's a 1,000-word original story with a strong hook and compelling emotional arc. The moment my son called me a nobody, the room didn't go silent, my heart did. It was a strange kind of quiet, the kind that presses on your skull like you've just ducked underwater. His wife laughed, thinking he was joking. He was. And that was the moment I realized something: respect, once lost, doesn't return on its own. Sometimes you have to drag it back yourself. It all started on a Sunday afternoon, the kind that smelled of lemon polish and slow-cooked roast. I had invited Mark and his wife, Lily, over so I could give them the keys to the lake house. The house that belonged to my late husband. The house Mark spent half his childhood trying to build sandcastles near and the other half tracking mud into. The house I had always believed I'd eventually pass down to him. I didn't have to give it to him, not legally, not financially. But I'm from the old school, the world where parents want to leave something behind for their children, even if it means tightening your own belt a little more each year. They arrived 30 minutes late. No apology. Mark walked in like a man doing me a favor simply by existing in my living room. Lily was sweet, but her eyes flickered to him constantly, waiting for approval or direction. I handed the envelope with the keys across the table. "This is for you," I said softly, proud of the moment. Mark smirked and tapped the envelope with one finger. "Finally," he said, "about time we got something back for all the support we've given." "Support?" I asked gently. "Mark, Oh, come on, Mom," he cut in, rolling his eyes toward Lily. "Let's not pretend. You've always kind of been, well, a nobody. No real job, no real career, nothing impressive. You lived off Dad and now you'll just drift around, I guess." Lily's laughter came out sharp, quick, like she regretted it the second it escaped. But the damage was done. A nobody. The word floated in the air between us like a burning feather. I could have shouted, I could have cried, I could have told him how many nights I sat up with him when he had nightmares, how many school projects I stayed home from work to help him finish, how many times I held that boy's world together with shaking hands. But instead I smiled. A real smile, wide and warm, the kind that makes people nervous. "Oh," I said softly, "is that so?" Mark gave a lazy shrug and opened the envelope. "Anyway, about the lake house, we're going to renovate it right away. Lily wants to turn the downstairs into a modern lounge area. It's going to cost a ton, so if you still have access to Dad's old accounts." I stood. That startled him. He paused mid-sentence. I walked toward him slowly, the way one might approach a frightened animal or a foolish one. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "give me those keys back." "What?" he scoffed. "The keys," I repeated, still smiling. "Hand them back." He laughed like I had told a joke, but when I didn't break eye contact, the laugh died in his throat. "You're not serious." "I am." He tossed the envelope onto the table. "Mom, stop being dramatic. Keys now." Something in my tone, quiet, level, sure, made even Lily sit up straighter. Mark finally picked up the envelope and slapped it into my palm. "Happy?" he snapped. "Oh, very," I said, "because nobodies don't give away lake houses." His face went blank. "I don't understand," he muttered. "Let me help," I said. "You see, Mark, the lake house is in my name, fully. It always has been. Your father trusted me even when you don't. And I was ready to transfer the deed to you today. I thought you'd take care of it, cherish it, maybe raise your own children there someday." He stared at me, slowly realizing the weight of what he'd just thrown away. "But," I continued, smoothing the envelope between my fingers, "I am a nobody. And nobodies don't own property worth $500,000, so clearly this house must belong to somebody else." Lily looked at Mark with wide eyes. "You didn't tell me she was giving it to you today." He ignored her. "Mom, come on," he said, trying to soften his voice, trying to push that charming grin he used to get out of trouble as a teen. "I didn't mean it, you know how I joke." "Oh, I do," I said, "but jokes require humor and I didn't hear any." His jaw tightened. "So what, you're just going to keep the house?" he said, incredulous. "Absolutely not," I said with a small nod. He blinked, confused. "I'm not keeping it," I went on. "I'm giving it to someone who actually sees me." "Who?" Mark demanded. I turned to Lily, whose eyes had gone watery, not from sadness but from something like understanding. "Lily," I said softly, "do you know what your husband forgot? I may be many things, but a nobody isn't one of them, and I think you know that." She swallowed. I do. Mark whipped his head toward her. What are you saying? I stepped between them. I'm not giving the house to you, I told him. I'm giving it to my granddaughter. They both froze. You're what? Lily whispered, hand instinctively drifting to her stomach. I nodded. She may not be here yet, but she will be, and by the time she's old enough to visit that lake, she'll know exactly who I am. A woman who built a home with love, someone who mattered. Mark stood angry and desperate. Mom, you can't just. Oh, I can, I said, and I have. I slid the envelope into my purse, snapped it shut, and picked up my coat. At the door, I paused. I raised you better than this, I said quietly, but I can't force you to remember who I am, only to accept the consequences when you forget. And then I left. 2 days later, a soft knock sounded at my door. It was Mark. It was Lily, with tears in her eyes, an apology on her lips, and ultrasound photos trembling in her hands. Please, she whispered, tell me you really meant it about the baby. I smiled then, not the tight smile from before, but a real one. Of course I did, I said, taking her hands. Come in, let's talk about her future. Behind her, on the walkway, Mark stood with his head lowered, hands shoved into his pockets, silent, ashamed, finally seeing who the nobody really was. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Truly seen. By the only people who mattered.